Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Are you concerned about the amount of chemicals you're exposed to? If so, you're not alone. They're in our cleaning products, stuff we put on our bodies, even our medications. Many folks are trying to detox by replacing the chemicals with essential oils. Take a look. Like millions of Americans, Sarah Hilburn struggled with emotional issues that led to physical ones.
I had gotten to the point where my anxiety and depression was keeping me from sleeping at night. I would spend several days out of the week just being awake the entire night, being awake the entire day.
Instead of seeking a prescription for Ambien or Lunesta, she turned to lavender oil.
I can honestly say that essential oil saved my life.
Putting the oil in a vaporizer next to her bed helped her begin getting more rest and in turn feeling happier.
I diffuse the lavender usually by itself just because it's very calming and it smells really good and it makes me sleepy.
Sarah also found other benefits. She puts cooling peppermint oil on her feet when she's feeling overheated and credits rose oil for her flawless complexion. Oils extracted from plants have been used for medicinal purposes for centuries, but just in recent years, essential oils have exploded in popularity. In his best-selling book, The Healing Power of Essential Oils, Dr. Eric Zielinski explains how to use dozens of these natural extracts.
You know, the Bible says the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. I can think of no other substance on the planet that epitomizes that like essential oils.
Essential oils come from distilling parts of plants like the root, bark, flowers, and leaves.
When you inhale citrus essential oils specifically, like orange, neroli, bergamot, lime, and lemon, it's been shown clinically to help decrease anxiety, decrease depression, and boost your mood. A lot of research being done with cinnamon and blood pressure balancing, so whether someone's diabetic, someone's obese, there's a lot of things you could do.
Even many pills we take mimic what's in nature. Aspirin, for example, is modeled after willow bark, which people used for centuries as a pain reliever.
So next time your son or daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter gets a fever, you can apply some diluted peppermint or orange oil on his or her back, and you'll see the fever go down. Next time you get a sore throat, you could gargle with a little bit of myrrh essential oil and water. Next time you get a headache, you can apply some pain-relieving oils like frankincense or copaiba.
And benefits go beyond relying on the medicine cabinet. Dr. Zielinski and his wife Sabrina use essential oils instead of store-bought synthetics throughout their home, from body lotion to deodorant and beyond. More people who are concerned about the chemicals in household cleaners are choosing essential oils because they clean naturally. Sabrina makes her own laundry detergent using ylang ylang. No chemicals and about $20 to wash 150 loads.
So when you're thinking about not just your kids, but your animals as well, it's really important to choose the right things when you're cleaning.
That includes mixtures for dusting, cleaning glass, granite, and even tougher jobs.
But what about like your all-purpose cleaner? What about, my stove? Is this really gonna work on the stove? Yes. Usually it has an orange, a clove, a cinnamon, a eucalyptus. It smells amazing. I mean, wait till you smell this. You're gonna be like, wow, that smells like Thanksgiving.
In just minutes, you can whip up hand sanitizer.
All you need is a 2-ounce glass spritzer bottle, 10 drops of essential oil. My favorite is lemon. Then you need 10 drops of witch hazel, 10 drops of a grain alcohol, and then you fill the rest of the bottle up with either purified or distilled water. Shake and go.
Since essential oils are highly concentrated, it's best to dilute them using what's known as a carrier oil, like jojoba. And watch out for fakes.
It is absolutely necessary to only use pure essential oils. What most people don't recognize is what a lot of these manufacturers are doing are synthetically adding different chemicals to essential oils and to other compounds to make them smell sweeter. And that's where you get your plugins from, your aerosols. And they have been linked to a number of diseases, neurotoxicity, cancer. We're talking Alzheimer's and dementia.
He recommends organic oils indigenously sourced with a batch report showing they're the real deal. So these days, Americans increasingly turn to natural, wonderful-smelling essential oils for healing, personal care, and around the house. When we come back, we'll tell you about the latest breakthrough in Alzheimer's prevention and treatment. Just the word Alzheimer's can be frightening. It steals memories and is America's third leading cause of death. One doctor believes the disease can be successfully fought, and his patients agree. These days, 69-year-old Sally Weinrich smiles almost all the time, ever since her Alzheimer's symptoms reversed.
Life is good. I like being able to remember, to connect the dots, because I've experienced the absence of thinking, and that is scary.
Her husband, Martin, equally overjoyed.
She has come back.
Sally's not alone. Hundreds of patients with mild to moderate cognitive impairment experience never-before-seen improvements thanks to a revolutionary treatment developed by Dr. Dale Bredesen.
Alzheimer's disease is no longer a mystery. You don't have to say, we don't know why you get it, we don't know what to do about it. We do know why you get it, we do know what to do about it, and we know how to prevent it.
After 30 years of research, Dr. Bredesen is sharing his treatment in the new book, The End of Alzheimer's, as well as in medical journals. Just like a roof with 36 holes can only work when all 36 are repaired, Dr. Bredesen says there are 36 causes of Alzheimer's, which must all be addressed.
If there are specific exposures, you want to get rid of those. If there are specific nutritional changes, you want to address those. If there are hormonal changes, you want to address those. If there are inflammatory changes.
Sally and Martin sensed trouble when she began forgetting things, like her grandchildren's names and her purse at the grocery. A test confirmed early stages of Alzheimer's.
It was a total sense of hopelessness. A wish to die and not want to live, because as a nurse, I've cared for Alzheimer's patients, and I also have had family members who I love dearly who've had advanced Alzheimer's and who died from Alzheimer's, in fact.
So, of course, I was scared.
Martin, a scientific researcher, scoured the internet for help. He found Dr. Bredesen's protocol and got Sally on board.
You don't want to wait until it's very late in the game. The earlier the better, and the more likely you're going to see dramatic improvements.
Sally got what Dr. Bredesen calls a cognoscopy, blood work, genetic tests, and more to identify where she was when it came to Alzheimer's 36 causes.
All of us should have a cognoscopy when we get to 45 or more, just as we get a colonoscopy when we're 50. Everybody knows that.
Sally's results pinpointed specific areas of concern.
Each person's program is different, so we developed a computerized algorithm so that you can look at all the different contributors for each person, identify.
The next step for Sally, tailor-made treatment that zeroes in on where she needs improvement. In her case, that meant certain medicines, vitamins, and supplements, more sleep, less stress.
And the first thing I started doing was spending, because Dr. Bredesen talks about decreasing stress, was spending 30 minutes each morning praying. I immediately saw improvement in what I could recall. Next thing I did was increase my exercise. I immediately saw improvement in my thinking.
Sally eats a mildly ketogenic diet as part of her treatment. That means no sugar and very few other carbohydrates.
When I am ketogenic, my brain thinks clearer than when I'm not ketogenic.
Sally eliminated exposure to certain toxins like mold and pesticides, addressed hidden infections in her body, and much more.
I have not gone to town and forgotten my pocketbook since I've started this program. Hallelujah, because I need my credit card.
It takes typically 3 to 6 months, but we see unprecedented improvements in their scores, in their ability to go back to work, interact with their families, increases in their hippocampal volumes, things like that.
When it comes to sustainability, Dr. Bredesen says people who have been on the program for 5 years now are still mentally fit. So while genetics mean an estimated 75 million Americans are predisposed to Alzheimer's, like Sally Weinrich, Dr. Dale Bredesen says they no longer have to fear being tested, because now there's something they can do about it.
The fear is pretty much gone. The doubt is pretty much gone. And that's the real Sally. That's who God and Dale Bredesen have given back to me.
When we come back, we'll show you how to balance your hormones and, as a result, lose weight. When it comes to losing weight, the body can have a gender bias. According to one physician, hormone imbalances put women at a disadvantage. But we can hit the hormone reset button and shed those unwanted pounds. After years of frustration, Lori Mazzone found a way to reclaim her high school figure. It helped her lose 11 pounds in just 3 weeks, followed by another 7, and she's not done.
I lost 4 inches off my waist. 4 inches in a month is unbelievable. I had not seen that kind of result in anything that I've done.
Lori balanced her hormones under the direction of gynecologist Sarah Gottfried, who lost 25 pounds when she first tried it on herself.
I started to share it with women in my practice, and the results were amazing. So women lost on average about 15 pounds. They dropped their blood sugar by 21 points. They lost 4 inches off their waist. We now have had 5,000 people go through this program.
If one or more of 7 key hormones is out of whack, forget about losing weight. But the good news is we can balance them with our fork. Specific foods can disrupt hormone levels. That can be fixed by avoiding the disruptive food for at least 3 days. In her book, The Hormone Reset Diet, Dr. Gottfried lays out a 21-day plan for 7 weight-related hormones.
It was gradual. It wasn't like a shock to my system. It wasn't like, oh, okay, now you're off of all these foods at once, and it wasn't overwhelming. It was done in small little bits and pieces.
Starting with red meat and alcohol, which can raise estrogen.
Estrogen is what makes us feminine. It gives us breasts and hips. But when it's out of whack, when it's too high relative to progesterone, it's going to make you have weight loss resistance. You're not going to be able to lose weight no matter what.
There are substitutes.
When I would come home at night, I would get a wine glass and I would just fill it with seltzer and apple cider vinegar. I felt like I was drinking wine.
The next 3 days, add fruit to the off-limits list to reset leptin.
It's the satiety hormone, and that means it controls your hunger.
Then give up caffeine, which disrupts cortisol.
Cortisol is the main stress hormone. And when it's too high, it grows this muffin top. It just gives you belly fat that you can't get rid of.
So once I've come off the caffeine, I was sleeping like a baby.
Thyroid levels that are too high or too low can cause problems.
Some of the common symptoms are thinning hair, weight gain, typically 10, 20 pounds, fatigue, depression.
Eliminate grains to reset your thyroid.
I grew up in an Italian family and they serve you like a half a pound of pasta. So I was dying. How am I gonna do that?
She did it by eating pasta substitutes like spaghetti squash or shirataki noodles. Next, avoid sweets to balance insulin.
The sugar cravings were completely gone after 4 days. And I was really addicted to sugar.
Abstain from milk products to reset your growth hormone.
Dairy, I thought would be hard for me because I like cheese so much. But I replaced it with hummus and I was fine. I didn't even miss it.
Finally, avoid environmental toxins like plastic and certain cosmetics to balance testosterone.
The average woman puts on about 515 synthetic chemicals every day on her skin.
After you've reset your hormones, you don't necessarily have to avoid these things forever. Every 3 days, add one back and see how your body responds, because everyone's different.
And then you feel like a blank canvas. And you're like, you've gotten rid of all these foods and you feel so great. And then you get to bring them back and see what happens, and that's kind of interesting.
When Lori resumed eating red meat, there was no change, so it's still on the menu. Dairy, however, brought a different result. She gained 5 pounds in just 3 days, a clear sign to stay away.
I felt like I was doing a science project on myself.
That was just the beginning.
I missed my caffeine, I thought. So I had a cup of coffee, and that night I didn't sleep. And that was it. I just never had it again.
So for women, hormones often dictate whether the body will burn fat or hold on to it. By replacing disruptive foods with healthy substitutions, we gain another weapon in the battle of the bulge. When we come back, a doctor reveals the true cause of heart disease, and it's not what you think. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but what causes it? According to a growing number of doctors, it's not what you might think. In the fight for better health, Americans view cholesterol as public enemy #1. Doctors tell us to stay away from food high in saturated fat like butter, eggs, and meat because it's responsible for heart disease. But what if that's wrong?
You know, cholesterol is found at the scene of the crime for heart disease, but it's not the perpetrator.
Cardiologist Stephen Sinatra and a growing number of physicians believe cholesterol does not cause heart disease. They point the finger at inflammation, which can be caused by eating too much sugar. Sinatra admits a small fraction of cholesterol is bad because it's inflammatory, but for the most part, it's good for you.
Cholesterol many times can be a gift in disguise, a higher cholesterol.
In his new book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, Sinatra explains that since half of all patients hospitalized for heart disease have high cholesterol, that means the other half have low cholesterol.
I was doing angiograms on people with cholesterols of 150, and they had far advanced heart disease. And the converse, I would do an angiogram on somebody with cholesterols of 280, and they had no heart disease.
Since high cholesterol gets the blame from most doctors, they prescribe cholesterol-lowering statin drugs to their patients with it. But Sinatra says only a small percentage actually need the drug. He only prescribes statins to middle-aged men with coronary heart disease, like Albert Tays.
Other than getting older, I'm not feeling any worse for wear.
Sinatra says a small percentage of women can also benefit from statins as an anti-inflammatory, not to lower cholesterol. But he says for many statin users, the risks outweigh the gains.
The side effects of statins are grossly underreported. I mean, grossly underreported.
Muscle pain and fatigue are two key complaints.
Doc, I can't get out of a chair anymore. I have weakness in my thighs. I can't play doubles tennis. I walk the dog and I'm vitally exhausted. These are statin side effects. However, a lot of the doctors or the patients think they're getting older. They're not getting older. These are statin side effects.
Patients over 70 are especially vulnerable.
They can't remember names. They can't remember where they put their glasses or keys. They forget sometimes who they are. If you do take a statin, it can actually bring on the onset of Alzheimer's disease by 15 years. So you got to be cautious with statins.
So while statins may or may not be right for you, one thing is certain: reducing inflammation is good for your heart no matter who you are.
The best way to do that is cut back on sugar.
You know, cholesterol is sort of your friend. Sugar is your foe. It's the villain. It's your enemy.
Sugar damages arteries, increases blood pressure, and ages your organs. And we're not just talking about soda and candy, but also food that turns into sugar as soon as you eat it. Refined carbohydrates like white bread, white pasta, and white rice. 68-year-old Joan Jackson is living proof that a low-sugar diet improves your heart. At one point, she needed a heart transplant. But after changing her diet and lifestyle, Joan was taken off the transplant list.
I feel great. I'm not going to say I'm 16, but I feel great at my age. I feel I can do anything and accomplish anything I want to.
Her secret? Good old-fashioned self-control.
We have a tendency of saying, oh, I want that last piece of pie, or I'm going to have this piece of candy. But sometimes you have to say no.
Dr. Sinatra describes his healthiest patients as those who avoid sugar and refined carbohydrates and, get this, fill up on fats. He highly recommends unsaturated fats like nuts, avocados, fish, and olive oil. He even touts saturated fats like unprocessed meat and coconut oil.
Coconut oil is a saturated fat. Because it's a saturated fat, it's less prone to oxidation. So it really protects you.
But stay away from trans fat, which is man-made and added to most packaged foods.
I call trans fats unguided missiles that really cause enormous inflammation of blood vessels.
Remember to pay close attention to the ingredients in your food. The word hydrogenated is your red flag because that means trans fat. So while doctors may disagree about whether cholesterol causes heart disease, one thing is certain: if you go easy on sugar and trans fats, you're headed in the right direction.
And that's it for this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.